All right, good evening and welcome back, guys. Today we're doing seller agency, so we're not doing anything on the buyer side. When I'm talking about seller agency, I'm talking about the listing agent. Okay, so we're only going to be talking about the listing agent today. So there's seller agency. So seller's agents seek buyers for sellers and the property from a listing broker or a cooperating broker. So this might confuse y'all a little bit, but the listing agent works for the seller, but the selling agent works for the buyer. And that can get a little confusing. We'll go into a little more detail, but the listing agent works for the seller and the selling agent works for the buyer. So cooperating brokers, that's just basically saying on the MLS, we agree to give you 3%. So if you're selling your home, you can expect to pay about 6% for realtors, and then any fees on top of that for closing. 3 goes to the buyer's agent, and 3 goes to the seller's agent, usually. That's usually what it is. And it'll say on the MLS what you'll get if you bring a buyer. So buyer's agents seek out the property for the buyer, but the seller's agents seek out buyers for the seller, if that makes sense. So when you get a listing agreement, you get about 5 days to get everything onto the MLS. If you don't have everything ready and on there in 5 days, someone could get sued, and guess who's getting sued? Is it going to be me?
No.
Or it's going to be the broker. So Justin's going to get sued, or whoever your broker is. So as I was saying, yeah, usually you get 3% for the sell, but am I actually paying the 3%? No, it's the seller that's paying the 3%, but 6 total. So let me ask you this, Wyatt. After you put a house on the MLS and you put a sign out there, what do you think the next thing you should do is?
The house on the MLS. And you're selling the property?
I'm the seller's agent, or I'm the listing agent.
Listing agent. Is it like marketing too?
Yeah.
Something like
It's a marketing. Starts with an O.
Is it open house?
Open house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people are going to want to come and look at the property, right? And as we talked about yesterday, remember box browning? There's a lot of photoshopping going on. So you don't actually know how the house really is until you go and see it yourself. So yeah, you would hold an open house, and people will come and look, and hopefully you'll get a selling agent from that. I don't know why the outline is right here, but I guess we'll go over the outline. It's after the first slide, so it's kind of strange. But we're going to go over listing agreements. That's going to be express and implied agreements. The types of listing agreements, net listings. We're going to go over exclusive seller agency. That's going to be in-house sales and exclusive seller agency in practice. We're going to go over the benefits of seller agency relationships. The agency benefits to seller or landlord, benefits to seller or landlord's agents, and options for representing sellers. We're also going to talk about non-exclusive seller agency, disclosure issues of the seller's agent and of the seller's agent to the buyer. All right, so listing agreements. Remember, the listing agreement is going between the broker and the seller, not the agent and the seller. The agent is acting on behalf of the broker, but it's between the broker and the seller. And it creates an express agency relationship. So express just means it's either verbally or written. If I've expressed verbally to you that I am your agent, then we have an expressed agency. Or if we have it in writing, it's also been expressed that I am your agent. And then there's also implied agency. And that's, remember I was telling y'all yesterday, if I think like your agent and I act like your agent, I'm your agent. So there's different types. You're going to want to try and avoid the implied agency if you can. You might get pulled into something you didn't want to. So most of the time it's going to be verbally or written agency expression. And the seller gives you authority and compensation. So they basically give you authority to act on their behalf, and they agree to pay a commission to you on completion. But you might want to write this down. Commission agreement is never in the contract. It's going to be in the listing agreement. That is where the agreement of commission will be put. So if you have a contract between a buyer and a seller, there's not going to be a commission. It's not going to have the commission there. You'll see the 3%, right? But it's listed first in the listing agreement. So the seller gives you authority and compensation, and then the broker agrees to market and place the client above their self. So, like I said, client comes first. You're gonna have to place them above your wishes. If I want the same house that my client wants, then I have to, I have to give it to my client. I can't purchase that house. And also, is to produce a ready, willing, and able buyer. That is a big one. I can almost promise you will see ready, willing, and able on the licensing exam. So if I'm ready to buy the property, I'm willing to buy the property, and my lender sends to the agent that I'm also able to buy the property, then I am entitled to a commission no matter what. If the seller decides to pull out last second, and I still had a ready, willing, and able buyer, I'm still entitled to commission. And that might happen. They just, no, I decide I'm not going to sell this anymore. But then they say, hey, I did my job. Where's my compensation? So yeah, if you bring a ready, willing, and able buyer, you are entitled to commission no matter what.
And that doesn't just mean somebody who buys it. If you bring somebody in that's really willing and able, and after they go through the inspection, they decide that it's too much work to put on, that they want to do whatever, you still brought somebody who's ready, willing, and able. It's just after the inspection through.
Did you get less because nothing happened, or
It depends on the listing agreement. If it says you get commission for bringing this, then you still get commission.
You still get
Yeah. And not only is if you have it listed for a year and after that year nobody buys it and everything expires and your listing agreement expires and they never sold or whatever, if they decide to pull out because they didn't want to after that, then you still get your commission. But it's not like if one person comes, looks at it, and leaves because of the inspection, then you can just be like, I get my money and I'm out. You still have to go find another buyer to come do it or whatever. But if after 2 people come look at the inspection and the seller just goes, I'm done with this, and they back out, then then you're still done.
So ready, willing, and able buyer, that's a big one. So there's, like I was saying, there's express. There's express and implied agreements. So first we're going to go over express, and that's clear and ambiguous. Like I said, I've either expressed verbally or I've expressed in writing that I am your agent. Written or oral. And so the associates are going to be agents of the broker. So I am an associate realtor under Justin. Broker represents the seller, either as the listing broker or as the agent of the listing broker, thus a sub-agent of the seller. Remember I was telling you yesterday, if I don't have a representation agreement with my buyer, then my duty is actually to the seller. If the buyer tells me something Like I can put 300,000 on this house, but I want to put 250, then I would have to go to the seller and tell them that he can put 300 on the house.
But like, would you state that you want to start at 250, or would you just go like how you said it?
I mean, I would say it like he told me.
Yeah.
He said, like, I can do 300, but I want to do 250. That's what I would tell them, and I have to because I don't have an agreement of confidentiality and all that. So if you don't have an agreement, your duty is to the seller. So yeah, I would be a sub-agent of the seller. And then there's implied agency. That's going to be done by words or conduct. So yeah, like I said, you did something that made this person think that you're their agent. So you became their agent. And it's usually unintended. You might not mean to do it, but you did it, and now you're an agent. And there's an agreement, a fee is not necessary. So we didn't even agree on fees or anything like that. I just entered into a unintentional implied agency with them. Good. So there's non-fiduciary duties in Texas. Is honesty, fairness, and competency. That's going to be your duties to your non-clients. So customers, not clients. There's also good faith and disclosure of material facts. We talked about that before. And TREC also has rules for fairness, but remember, fairness does not always mean equal. You can treat them fair, but not equally. Also, you need to avoid misrepresentation and false promises. This is basically just re-cementing things that we went over yesterday. Remember, never guarantee anything to your clients. It can get you in a lot of trouble. All right, so now we're going to go to the fun stuff, types of listing agreements. So there's all kinds of listing agreements, 3 total, actually. The first one is exclusive right to sell. And so an exclusive right to sell means I got an exclusive right to sell. Yeah, this is what you want. You want an exclusive right to sell. And a lot of brokerages, they will only do exclusive right to sell. They won't do other ones. They'll say, hey, no, just walk away from that. So an exclusive right to sell basically means that if I'm selling your property, no matter who brings a buyer or no matter what happens, I'm still going to get paid if the house sells. So you're guaranteed your commission. So it's going to, in that situation, you're going to probably give that person the best care that you can, right? Because you're guaranteed a paycheck, right? And that's going to be on like probably 99% of your listing contracts is going to be an exclusive right to sell. It's just better protection for us as agents, and it gives your client the best care possible. Yeah, so even if the seller finds a buyer and brings the buyer and they do the whole contract and I wasn't even a part of it, I still get my commission because I have an exclusive right to sell. And that's used a lot in Texas. And there's also exclusive agency. This one you probably don't want to touch. We'll go into more detail later. But in an exclusive agency, a seller can basically, they can sell the property behind your back. So if the seller brings a buyer or they know someone and they bring a buyer and they get the contract, you don't get any commission. You lost out. They basically just cut you out of the deal. And I think I told y'all once before, sometimes your client will think that they're helping you. I'm going to call the other agent and talk to them, but they're actually shooting you in the foot.
Because then they go directly.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Does that exclusive right to sell only apply to Texas real estate, or does it apply to whatever section, like whatever MLS you pertain to? Like if you have a realtor and a property that you want to get in like Austin, but you're not in that area, or you're not like, what's the word? If you know what I mean.
You have the exclusive right to sell. It's just you, no matter what, as long as it's in Texas, because that's the only place I have a license to practice real estate in.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine that they would use exclusive right to
Yeah.
sell in other states. I don't know the laws of the other states, but
Yeah.
I mean,
As far as in Texas, in the listing agreement, you can put in like the area basically.
I remember the word. If you're not competent in like another area, like if you're not competent in El Paso or something, would that exclusive right to sell still apply to you?
It would if you sign the contract.
it would, because if you're selling, remember, you don't really need to know the area too much, right? Because if you're buying, you're going to be looking around and say, oh, this is the right place, or this is a bad part of the neighborhood, you know all that. But if you're selling, it's just on the market.
And you still should be somewhat competent, but like in that situation, if it was El Paso, I just wouldn't sign that. Like if they called me and said I have property in El Paso to list and we're gonna do exclusive right to sell, I just give it to somebody else because I don't want to drive out there to put a sign out. I don't want to
Take the pictures.
like I don't want that to be on me.
That's
So
like
I'll
a
just
7-hour drive.
Yeah, I was
isn't it?
giving to another agent to do that. Like so, as long as it's in Texas, if I sign that contract, it is exclusively to me. It's just a matter of if I want to take on that responsibility or not. But once we sign that listing agreement, yeah, it is exclusively you as long as it's in Texas.
Yeah.
I've sold houses in Galveston, or I did a listing in Galveston, in Houston, and in College Station. So like I got access to HAR like halfway through it, so I was able to actually get into that MLS to list it and everything. But as far as luckily at the office here, we kind of all have access. Like Justin has access, so if we need to list something in El Paso, I don't have access to whatever MLS that is, but Justin does, so we can list it through Justin basically.
Well, you're going to be listing it through him anyway.
Yeah.
It would be under his name.
Yes, exactly. That's what's under my name.
But yeah, I imagine they use exclusive right to sell in other states. I mean, that's what you want, right?
Yeah.
It's the best protection for the agent and the best care for the client. But yeah, exclusive agency, that your client can basically sell the property behind your back. If they get a buyer, you pretty much cut out of the deal. And a lot of brokerages won't even touch that.
Yeah.
Because it's just, I mean, you're not guaranteed a paycheck.
Also, I've seen situations where I bring a client to come buy the property as an agent, but then once I leave, the seller and that person start talking, and then they do the whole deal behind my back, and then she can claim that, well, she did the work, so I don't get paid, even though I technically brought the client to them. So that's why we just like avoid that, because it's not.
Never let your client talk to other agents.
Even if you brought them, it can't possibly be.
Yeah,
it's not promised that you'll get it. So
when you do that rep agreement, tell them you don't call any other agents. Don't do anything behind my back. Let me do me.
yeah.
If you have any questions on real estate, come to me. Don't go anywhere else. Come to me.
You have to say it one time series.
Hey,
I had a client do that.
All
and
jokes aside.
it was very.
Like you kept going to other people.
Well, I just had a client that like we were purchasing, so a little bit different, but like the way the communication should always go is like client to agent. Like it's always you never cross paths or whatever. I never talked to the other person's client or whatever.
we actually have a diagram.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And
And
then
then
actually explains
yeah,
exactly that.
but so I was talking to the other agent about something, and then like 2 days later she called me and was like, hey, your client keeps calling me and my seller to ask questions about blank and blank. And so I had to call my client and be like, I know you're just trying to like get information quickly, because she's super impatient. So like if she asks me a question and I'm in the shower, by the time I get out of the shower, she's already called 15 people to like figure it out. And so I had to tell her, like, if you do that, I lose my license. So don't do that. And she was a good family friend of ours, so I know she's not like trying to backstab
Oh,
me.
that's even really you gotta
Yeah,
get
I know
serious.
she's not trying to backstab me, but I know it's just one of those things that I had to like get on to her and be like, I know you're just trying to help, but that's not how this business works. You have to talk to me and let me do like the conversations between the other people.
And
Yeah.
I actually had that happen to me. The other buyer's agent didn't know exactly what to do on the transaction, but she was a much older agent, so I don't know. But she actually gave my number to her client, and her client called me, and I was like, "Are you are you the client of blank, blank, blank? He's like, yeah. I was like, all right, well, I can't talk to you.
Talk to you later.
So go ahead and if you have any questions, just ask your agent. Bye. And I told Justin that, and he was like, well, he's not supposed to be calling you. I was like, I know he's not supposed to be calling me, but he called me. So that can happen too. And now we get to the worst of them all, the open listing.
That was the one where anyone could do anything. And
It's basically brokerages, all brokerages could list the property, and whoever actually brings the buyer gets the money.
But yeah, we had the example in my class about like having like 25 signs in your front yard.
Yeah.
Because every company comes out and puts out a sign
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
And it's just whoever brings the buyer gets paid. And, you know, in that situation, the agents probably aren't going to work too hard, are they?
No.
Because they're, I mean, it's pretty much,
risky.
yeah, it's risky, and you're not guaranteed a paycheck or anything. It's even worse for the seller too. They could technically sell the property under an open listing, but they're actually hurting themselves by doing an open listing.
Because they pay more or something.
No, not necessarily pay more. It's just,
They could pay less if they do it. They don't pay anything. But it's just, yeah, you're not going to get good service. If I list 7 properties and sell the listing,
Yeah.
I'm not even going to try.
You're not
There's
gonna
gonna
do
be
anything.
45 people listing it, so what's the point of even worrying about it? I'll just go do something else. And suddenly
And then
nobody's
all
working.
45
Well,
people.
yeah.
in that
well,
job.
technically you can only have one listing on the property, so only one person can have it up
On
on
the
the
MLS,
on the MLS, but everybody else can put their signs out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, you're not going to give care to them, right? You're probably just going to go out there and stick a sign in there and see, hey, hopefully I get a call, whatever.
There's usually like 1 or 2 listings that are open listings on the MLS. Like
Yeah.
it's always like 1 or 2, but they'll sit there for 6 months just because like nobody really is trying to do. And then if I have a client who's like, let's go look at that one, I'm like, fine. It's just like,
Yeah.
but like I have to go show it to him, but like I'm not gonna try to push him to buy it because
I haven't had
Like-
a client make me go to an open listing yet. But you
it's-
have?
I've had one, and it was like we went and looked at it, and they were like okay with it, and then we left, and they didn't
They
really
didn't go
like it
for
that
it.
much, so it wasn't a huge deal. But if they decided that's the one they wanted, well, then I have to like try to solidify that like I am their agent. If they buy it, I get paid. Like you have to like try to. Or else is if you don't try to like make that a point, then everything gets back in behind you, and you don't.
Yeah, never let your buyer talk to the seller
Yeah.
if you run into them. Avoid that. So this is a bit of a diagram about the exclusive right to sell listing. So it's obviously going to start with the seller, right? And it goes down to the listing broker and to the buyers. But it also has other brokers that can come in, and they're going to go to the listing broker, who is then going to go to the seller. If that makes sense. So it all is going to go to the listing broker, buyers, other brokers, listing broker, and then see this little dotted line there. Even if that just means that even if the seller procures a buyer, you're still going to get paid. So yeah, if the buyer is secured by the seller, it's still going to go to the listing broker. And so buyers will go directly to the listing broker or whoever agent that he assigns to that property. So yeah, like I said, this is going to be the most protection for you and the best care for your client.
And if y'all have any questions about these graphs, please ask. I know they can be kind of confusing. So if y'all think of anything that's kind of you don't understand why this arrow is pointing that way or whatever, just say something. 'Cause
Yeah.
I know they can be kind of
Just
confusing.
ask questions.
Yeah, I know they can be
If you
complicated.
have a
So.
question, just ask. So yeah, little diagram there. More on the exclusive right to sell, as I said, is the greatest security for the broker and the most services for the seller. Because you're guaranteed a paycheck, you're going to work hard. The broker is paid if anyone, even the seller, finds the buyer. And TAR form is on page 98 of your book. It's basically just an example of an exclusive right to sell listing. So if you want to check that out, it is on the book and in the course materials. All right, so now we've got to exclusive agency diagram. And this one's going to be a little bit different. So It's still the same here, right? Everything's the same here. We have other brokers that come in and they go to the listing broker, correct?
Same there.
Same there. And then we go over here, and that's where they can go behind your back and sell the property. So if the seller procures a buyer, you're cut out of the deal and you don't get paid commission. And that basically explains what exclusive agency is. Like I said, you probably won't be dealing with that in your career. You may at some point, but probably not.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully
Does
not.
that
I
happen
mean-
too often, or you just typically turn them down when you get that offer?
Well, not necessarily.
Usually people don't even try it off. Like, usually they sign a listing agreement that says you have an exclusive right to sell. Nobody.
Yeah,
That's just
pay
normal.
attention
Nobody
to that.
bats an eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's not so much like we sneak it past them, but
Yeah.
that's normal. So
Gotcha.
nobody
That's the
cares.
normal,
Yeah.
Unless you get the one hard ass who knows.
Yeah, you might get the one guy who's like, well, I've sold my property before, so I don't need you, blah, 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 and they want to do something different or whatever, so.
That's
In
what I
that
imagine.
situation, you can try and explain to them
Yeah.
why you want an exclusive right to sell. Not just because I get paid, because I'm going to work hard for you.
Yeah.
But he still might say, no,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. Right? Yeah.
That's something with the open listening is like, I sold my house once, I could do it again.
Sure. Yeah.
Go do something then.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I said they can go behind the back and sell the property. More on exclusive agency. Other brokers work through the listing broker, but the seller may find their own buyer and pay no commission, like I said. So it's basically your broker is competing with your own client, which you think that's a good thing to do? Do you ever want to compete with your client? No, you want to work for them. So yeah, just imagine competing with your client. I would not want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so here now we have a diagram of an open listing. Now this is going to be interesting. So we start with the seller, right? Starts with the seller. Okay, now we have broker B and some buyers. Then we have broker A, goes straight to the seller, and it can keep going. It's going to be broker B, C, D, E, F, G, Y, all of that. So yeah, basically whoever brings, even the seller, if broker A brings it, the original one didn't get it. Or broker C, broker D, all of that. Or if the seller gets the agent, or gets the buyer. So no matter what, it's just a mess usually. And like I said, there's only a couple people that do that at any time. But they're not very successful at all.
Because even if broker B is the one who puts it on the MLS as like that one listing, if broker A sees it as a client that's interested in it, and then goes out to that property with them, they technically brought the client. Like,
Yep.
Even though they saw it on the MLS from this other broker, it's them that got the call or found, like, matched that property to their client or whatever, so.
It's basically everyone is out for themselves. It's a free for all, I guess you could say. So yeah, it can get messy when you do an open listing. Some more on open listings. The broker must be the procuring cause. Like I said, he has to be the reason that the sale was made. To be paid. The seller reserves the right to sell the property and not pay a commission to the listing broker, as I was saying. If the seller finds a buyer, he can just cut you out of the deal. And the disadvantage is that it's not much incentive for the broker because you're probably not going to get paid, right? Yeah, so if a seller talks to another, or if your seller or your buyer talks to another agent, you can lose your commission. That's why I'll just reiterate that communication is key. I mean, I would rather have my client call Justin and be like, your agent calls me too much, than rather not calling them enough.
Don't even know who they are.
Yeah, like just regular communication, just be open about it. Just communicate with them and you'll be good. So net listings. This is a really interesting one. It refers to the way the broker is paid rather than the type of listing. The seller determines the amount of money they will accept after subtracting costs to sell. It's not illegal in Texas, and I'll explain what a net listing is. So let's say a client comes to me and says, I want $200,000 for my house, and I want to do a net listing. And I say, okay, so what if his house is worth $500,000? A net listing basically means he agreed to take the $200,000, and anything past that comes straight to me. So if his house is actually worth $500,000, and he agrees to the $200,000, I would technically get a check for $300,000. But when you do that, you have to actually have a legitimate net listing in Texas. You have to go to the seller, show them proof. This is what your house is worth. This is the appraisal. This is what we have. Do you still only want to take $200,000? And if he says yes, cool. Then I've got a net listing and I've got $300,000 on the way. If he says no, I don't want that. I want to change that. I want 450 and you get 50 or something like that. So you have to give them proof of what their house is actually worth. And because this caused a lot of issues back in the day, people were being very deceitful as to how much their house is actually worth and not telling them.
The reason it says not illegal is because it is in a lot of other states.
It is illegal in a lot of other
And
states.
it used to be in Texas. I think. At one point it was. I thought
It might have been. I don't know for
I'm
sure.
gonna say that 11, I'm not sure. But I feel like it was. But maybe I'm thinking.
It would make sense if it was.
Yeah.
But instead, they just came out with a law that basically says, yeah, you have to show them exactly what their house is worth. And if they still agree to it, then fine, yeah, you go to that listing. But if you do that, they're likely going to say, okay, no, I'm going to take this.
Yeah.
And you can have whatever's left. And they're going to take the lion's share, of course. So that's a net listing.
It's also a gamble too, because if their house is worth 250 and they want 240, and you go, cool, get $10,000 per paycheck, that's not bad. Put their house up for 250, somebody puts in at 247, you guys say cool, then they come and do inspections, and after inspections, they want to drop the price to this much, and then this one's changed. Suddenly now they're selling the house for 235,
And you get nothing.
and you get nothing. So it's like, yeah,
So that can happen as well.
yeah.
Too much like back and forth. Somebody gets that certain number, you would make anything.
Yeah, like if they want 240, and once it goes under, at
Oh,
240
gotcha,
under, like, I don't
gotcha.
think
His
it's
cut would be, and
So-
then your cut would be nothing.
Yeah, anything
Gotcha.
above this price is what I would get.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
If we go below it, then I get nothing.
Yeah, I see that.
So you can see why it would be illegal in a lot of states. You can really take, I mean, if you're a real estate professional, you can take advantage of some
Yeah,
of
even
those
the market
certain
laws.
laws. You can say, oh yeah, your house is worth 250,000. Put it on the market for 500,000. And that did happen quite a bit.
But I mean, if you're foolish enough to pay for it. I mean,
At that point, it's on you.
yeah, like if you can
Well, it
clearly
depends on
see.
the property. Like the house I'm in right now is like a 2-bed, 1-bath. The house from 1951 that's like falling apart, but it's right behind Northgate, and the appraised value of it is $498,000 for like an 850 square foot house.
Yeah.
Just because of the
Because of the
location.
location.
Yeah, because of the
Wow.
location thing.
Yeah.
But if somebody came up to me and said, "I'll sell your house for $180,000," I'd be like, "Sweet, that sounds good to me." Like if you just don't know, you might think that's a great price for. Because you look at the house and go, "Yeah, it sounds great to me."
Yeah.
Yeah,
not
you're looking at
realizing-
the eye value.
Yeah,
rather
not
than
really
everything.
looking at,
Not
really
really
thinking about how much
knowing what
worth.
it's actually worth.
Yeah,
But I mean, as a buyer, see, like if you're going to buy this house and live in the house, would you take like you should take that into consideration too, like if they're overcharging or undercharging. You get what I'm saying?
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm saying
that's
that's the tax appraised value. Of it.
Yeah.
So like that's not even one. That's usually like 70 or 80% of what it's actually worth is the tax appraised value. But also then that's showing what it's worth. So like if I was to put the house on the market, I'd probably put it up at 520 just see what happens, because you might have people that go, well, I'll tear the house down and
They'll
build,
tear it down.
and build this
commercial.
super nice. I have a nice backyard. Like people might just go like, I'll build this nice thing, put a pool in, and suddenly now you have $1 million house
Yeah.
or whatever. So yeah,
Location is a big thing.
yeah,
Commercial properties are a whole nother ballgame too.
Yeah.
Like the prices for a commercial property is ridiculous compared to a residential.
I think the actual house value on the CAD for my property is like $78,000, and the land value is like 419 or whatever. Yeah,
It's just location.
Yeah,
That's
it's
all it
ridiculous.
is. I think we talked about that in law contracts a bit.
Yeah.
Just location. It's a big thing. I mean, a house here, of course, is not going to cost the same as the exact same house in California on the beach. So it's location. So yeah, that's a net listing. You probably won't ever use that, but if you do and they still agree to it, good on you. You probably just made a bunch of money. So exclusive seller agency. Seller's agency only represents the sellers, and the buyer is always the customer. So the buyer is not represented. He would be a customer, and it will clearly indicate that the buyer is not represented. Like I said, exclusive seller agency. So on an in-house sale, brokerage represents seller only, buyer is a customer. That means, I mean, we're dealing with in-house sales right now like crazy because the market, it's actually killing smaller firms like us because they want the full 6%. So what they do is if they get a buyer, they only show that buyer listings from their office. And if that buyer says, I don't like any of those, and then the agent will be like, well, that's all that's on the market right now. But is it really all that's on the market? No. And they'll try and push you sometimes.
So that's actually how everything is right now. It's kind of like affecting us.
Right now, yeah, if you, they're selling, what they'll do is they'll put it on the market, and then if I bring a buyer, they'll just say, hey, you've got till this time to put your highest and best in, and then they'll likely only accept an offer from there in their brokerage.
Because houses are getting so many offers now. If you get 10 of them,
You're gonna go.
especially you could probably talk your client into, well, this one might be 5,000 less, but they want to do it, and you can kind of talk them into like one from your own brokerage, so you can get one from 6% or whatever. So.
Yeah, like I was saying, we put over 20,000 and put everything in the favor of the seller on a contract that I put in, and we still lost it. And the house was already listed 40,000 over, and we still put 20 more on it just to try.
60 over.
Yeah, and then she just texted me saying, "Hey, we went with another offer." Great, we gave you everything.
I doubt it was better.
We gave you everything.
Yeah,
and then
for real.
some.
Yeah.
Yeah, I doubt that the offer was just much better. They just probably got someone in their firm.
So they were in that situation though, I mean, like their agent kind of like persuaded them to go with the contract from within another one, even though it's not maybe not been as beneficial for the seller. And that's not that wouldn't be like legal.
It is. I mean, that would be like some sort of deceptive.
Yeah.
It is, but
It just
unfortunately,
happens.
yeah, if you can't prove it, then
And
It's
since,
one of those
yeah,
things
and
everyone knows
since
it's
he
a
doesn't
different-
know what the contract they accepted was, it's not like he can say.
yeah.
Exactly.
Because
They
they
don't,
can just.
they're not gonna tell me what.
And argue.
Yeah.
It's messed up, but it's happening right now.
Yeah.
And it's actually killing smaller firms like us.
And if the seller believes it, I mean, they might say it's 5,000 less than this other offer, but since it's all in house, you'll have better communication, and we can keep things better, and like it'll
Yeah.
run smoother. And,
That's how the trend stuff.
yeah, so it sounds good. And I'd rather that than have a really complicated transaction when it wouldn't have been complicated in the first place.
At least 20 grand more with all the benefits your way.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna tell the agent that shit.
Sometimes you have to be firm.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to be firm. If you're soft in this business, you'll get stepped on and walked all over. And I'm learning that more and more the longer I'm doing this.
It's making me cold. So.
Sometimes you just gotta be firm, man.
Ian had like yelled at me the other day, and I don't know, it was one of those things that he did, and they came in and informed us, and he's like,
I yelled at this agent.
probably shouldn't have, you might get in trouble. He's like, no, you did good. Like, I get that you're like scared that you might like, ooh, now they're gonna come after us. And Justin's like, no, you did. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. You
Yeah.
just stand up for yourself and
Stand up for
don't
your
get
client.
stepped on by people. Like, stand up for your client too. Yeah.
So you got a bit of backbone. Sometimes you gotta be firm, even with your client. If your client doesn't listen to you, be like, hey, no, you cannot do this. We'll get sued.
I've had mostly that. I've had mostly that sort of situation.
I feel like, yeah, you just feel that lawsuit. word around that.
Oh, yeah.
Lawsuit.
Lawsuit,
Think
bro.
about that, bro.
So many brokers prefer in-house sales, of course, because they're going to retain full commission. They're going to get that 6%. This also does happen with leases. You might, like, if you have a client that's leasing, there's no real like commission that has to be attached with the lease. So you might see one, you get 50% of the first month's rent. One you might see 25. One you might see a little higher. I haven't seen higher than 50, but a lot of times they'll push the ones with the higher commission to them. They're like, hey, these are the ones I found, but in reality there's more. But these ones have 50% commission. So go look at these. And that happens in leasing as well.
But that is, I was talking about that in our class. Like that is steering. You can't.
Yep.
You can't just do that. You can't just show them good ones. You can show them all of them and put
Yeah,
more effort into the ones, but it's not illegal to go look at 10 and there's 3 that you get a higher commission on. So in those 3, when you walk in, you turn the lights on real quick and you're like, oh, look at this wonderful. Like, there's nothing against that.
Yeah,
But you just have to show them all. If they want to go look at it, you have to show them.
You can push the ones with the higher commission for them. Be like, hey, these are nice, but as long as you show them other properties as well, then you're fine. You're not doing anything wrong. So yeah, that's happening a lot right now, and it's not getting better. It's getting worse. So exclusive seller agency in practice. Let's say Sally could either be the listing associate, the selling associate with no relationship, or she could be the selling associate with a prior relationship. Those are just different types of agency there. So the benefits of seller agency. So the benefits to the seller and the landlord, they're going to get a broad marketing and a broad range of buyers. You can give them advice and opinions, which is very valuable to your client. You can also negotiate contracts in their favor or on their behalf, and they're owed confidentiality as well. So these are seller agency. These are going to be the benefits to a seller or a landlord. What about the benefits? Never mind. We have more benefits to the seller and landlord's agents. So you'll have a better understanding of the circumstances. If something goes wrong with the contract and you ever have to call your client and tell them bad news, just make sure that you have a solution or good news right after it. Otherwise, your client will lose major faith in you. So you say, oh, they kicked us out of the contract. However, I'm working diligently to, or stuff like that. You just want to explain to them.
The buyer backed out because of this, but I already have it back up on the market.
But I already
working and doing this, and we're going to put it on here later.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah.
Because if you call them and just say, hey, yeah, we lost the contract, they're just going to be like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, great, I guess. But yeah, so you'll have a better understanding of circumstances. There's incentive to market. There's also no conflict of loyalties. Everyone's loyal to each other in a seller agency. There's limited liability for the acts of the buyer's broker. And this is going to be the most familiar to the public. This is when they know seller agency. So options for representing sellers. There's an exclusive seller representation. There's the non-exclusive seller representation, which is just, that's going to be like your net and your open listings. That'll be the non-exclusive. Then there's cooperative sales, which is sub-agency, and that's going to be selling on the MLS. And then there's intermediary agency. Gio, can I as an agent be an intermediary?
Oh, yes.
Only the broker can be an intermediary. He's the only one that can act in an intermediary. We've talked about it before. It's just basically they're working for both parties. And if Justin does that or someone does that, he'll probably put one agent with the seller, and then he'll put another agent with the buyer, and then he'll keep a brick wall between you two.
Yeah.
Saying you can't talk to each other about anything. But technically, only the broker can act as the intermediary, but he can still assign agents to it. So it's a bit of a trick question. And that does happen. I did one
Got a
interview,
couple, yeah.
which is nice. You do get the 6%, but you just got to be careful with what you say, because you can definitely get in a lot of trouble. All right, so sub-agency. Sub-agency, they're cooperative sales with the buyer agent or the sub-agents. So the definition of a sub-agent, that would be, like I said, I'm a sub-agent of Justin. I'm a sub-agent of my broker. You can offer them sub-agency. You can create sub-agency. There's fiduciary duty owed to the seller, and liability and ethics in sub-agency are in sub-agency as well. There's certain liabilities and certain ethical things laid out in sub-agency. So non-exclusive seller agency. Firms may choose to represent the buyer and sellers, but not in the same transactions. And that would be the intermediary if they did do that. So you will show the buyer client other brokers' listings only. And usually show buyer in-house listings first, like I was saying. Yeah, these are ours first. So it's as long as you show them other properties and not just the ones in your firm, you're not really breaking any law. Like I said, you can push them towards those, but a lot of the times they'll show you, hey, this is what we have in-house before they even go out and start looking for other properties. If the buyer is not interested in the in-house properties, that's when you get them to sign the buyer representation agreement, because then at that point, you'd be representing them outside the brokerage.
You can, if you bring a buyer to buy, if I'm selling Stefan's property, and you call me saying you're looking for a house, and I go show you Stefan's house and you want it, I'm still working for Stefan, and you're not represented by anybody. So if you want to put in an offer, you can tell me, and I'll put in the offer and give it to Stefan, but you don't get any of my, I'm not going to give you my opinion on price, I'm not going to negotiate for you, you're just by yourself, and I'm working for Stefan.
You're just gonna do the legal work.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna do the legal work for you.
Just the paperwork.
Yeah, I'll just do the paperwork for you, but I'll talk to Stefan and try to negotiate, see if I can get a better deal out of you or whatever. Nobody's representing you, and that's how you can get a 6%. But that's what if you don't want Stefan's house and that's the only one we have listed, let's say, then at that point I need a buyer representation so I can actually represent you for looking at other houses, and I can be your agent for looking somewhere else.
So you can only do that for, like, if you're trying to buy Stefan's house, but the moment they try to go for another house.
Yeah, like outside of the property, yeah, or outside of the firm, yeah.
And as soon as they go outside the firm, I'll say, all right, I'll do it, but yeah, you're gonna have to sign this buyer rep.
Yeah, because then I can work for you and you get all my,
You get the best benefit.
you get the best benefit, yeah.
The best care. So yeah, like I said, if you show them in-house, as long as you show them other properties, you're not really breaking the law. But that's happening a lot right now. So disclosure issues, disclosures of seller's agent to the seller. So the listing agent provides that form. That form is, I believe that, when is it? Which one is that? You know which one that is? I think that's the seller's disclosure, I believe. There's so many numbers.
No, 5008 something.
Yeah, 1101.
Representation.
Oh, so that's the representation
Yeah.
disclosure, okay. So the listing agent will have to provide that form, the representation disclosure. The listing agent informs the seller of these things. The general company policies that we have at our firm. The role of the buyer's agent. The possibility of intermediary. You do disclose that, and if you do intermediary, I don't think it's said, both parties have to agree to it.
Yeah.
So the buyer and the seller will have to agree that, okay, yeah, you can work as an intermediary.
Yeah, because what you don't want is to sign a representation agreement with Stefan saying, I'm gonna work for you and we work on your behalf. And then suddenly I switch to an intermediary role and he asks me a question, I'm like, I can't answer that because right now I'm not working for you anymore. I'm just gonna pass the paper back.
Pretty much.
Yeah, you don't want to get stuck in that, like, because then he's like, well, what happened? It's just like,
Yeah, so, you'll also have to disclose the splitting of the commission, how the commission is gonna be split. The opinion of price on the property for the seller. And compensation from other party. So any compensation that's made from another party, you must disclose. I believe most of this, if not all of it, will be in that form.
Yeah.
The seller's disclosure notice. Or sorry, not the seller's disclosure,
The
the representation disclosure notice.
and also stuff like the role of an agent and stuff like that. That's also in the IADS information for brokerage services. It will tell you kind of like what a seller's agent is, what a buyer's agent is, what an intermediary does, kind of like just a general outline of what they do. Not so much, not a lot of specifics, but just like a paragraph and kind of what each role is about. So that kind of counts for that role as buyer's agent and possibility of intermediary. It kind of explains that process to people a little bit. So.
Some more disclosure issues. This is going to be the disclosure of the seller's agent to the buyer. We just did the seller, we're doing the buyer. The brokerage represents the seller, not the buyer, and the listing agent provides the representation disclosure to unrepresented buyers at first substantive dialogue. Substantive dialogue just means the first time you really sit down and have a conversation with them. That's when you would give them that representation agreement. You cannot provide the buyer with advice that is adverse to seller negotiating position. So basically, you don't want to give away some things that would diminish your seller's negotiating position.
Yeah, you see a lot of people are moving for work, and we start working in a few weeks, so we got to move out from this place, so we're selling our house here. Well, if you mention that to the buyer, they can offer less because they know you have to sell the house in the next 14 days. So that might be the best offer you get in those or whatever. So you don't want to mention stuff like that, or we need the money because of blank. Don't want to mention that because then they can offer less because if you really need the money, you'll take less. So yeah.
And so you will always be working in the seller's best interest, and you must disclose all material conditions of the property. Remember, material facts is something that would change a buyer's decision to buy the property. And you will not disclose the seller's motivation. You don't have to disclose why your seller is selling. And you probably shouldn't. All right. So our key points for this evening, and then we have a few discussion questions like we have been having. We went over express, oral or written contracts. So that's agency, express or implied agency. Conduct of parties, early disclosure avoid problems. Sorry.
Yeah.
Written disclosure and brochures are helpful, and distinguish between fair and equally. Remember, fair is not always equal. We also talked about seller sub-agent owes all full fiduciary duties to the seller. And under the MLS, offering sub-agency is optional. Some brokers are more comfortable working with the seller side of the transaction, which, yeah, it can be great to do the seller side of the transaction. Just expect to get a lot of calls.
It just depends. Some people like doing the buyer side more too, but it just depends.
Listings can be good, but yeah, sometimes you have to deal with a ton of calls.
Yeah.
And texts.
But you don't have to drive.
Yeah, you don't have to drive.
Depending on if
And you don't have to put in a contract. Someone
Yeah.
who's buying, they do all the
you just
contract.
wait till
They
you
do
get
the receipt.
yeah.
So it's nice in that regard, but yeah, you get a lot of calls. So if the buyer is a customer, they must be particularly careful not to provide client level service. We talked about what you can do for a client and a customer. Leads to implied or ostensible agency. All right, suggestions for brokers. If any of y'all are going to be a broker, sales meetings, you're going to review services offered by the listing agents. You're going to do an office policy. We have one here. So wherever you go, whichever firm you go to, there's probably going to be an office policy, and they're probably going to have their own. Expect written documentation that buyers understand that agency represents the seller, not the buyer. All right, so discussion question 1. Let's see. Don't make eye contact. Yeah, don't make eye contact. It could be you.
I'll look back immediately.
So this question is actually a pretty difficult one. Yeah, you see, it's a tough one.
Lob it up for us. Lob it up. Point that
Well, I'm
direction.
still gonna make someone try and answer it. I mean,
Well, that's what I'm saying. Point in the direction though, so I can slam this thing.
Okay, Wyatt, do you want to answer the question?
I got this.
You got this?
Yes, with your lob, but that was
With what?
the lob up. Like
You want me to lob it to you? Lob you the answer?
no. Point me in the right direction.
Okay. So when could a yeah, it's gonna be B. The answer is B.
Just write that down.
So what in the situation could a buyer begin to feel that the seller is also risky? So, what if I'm telling things to the buyer that I shouldn't be telling?
That would probably give me signs that
So you would think I would be representing the buyer too? Maybe
if you're telling information that you're not supposed to be telling.
if I tell them, hey, if I call the buyer and I'm like, well, she's selling it for $300, but she'll take $250.
Yeah,
It could, you know.
that might be signs that you are working.
That I'm working for the buyer. So what are the possible consequences of that? Well, you know, someone's gonna get sued. Someone's probably gonna lose their license.
Would transaction fall due and be canceled out, or
That's like a breach of contract, right?
Yes,
Yes,
it'd be a breach of the listing contract.
so how would the sale, like, would it continue, or is everything just terminated and dropped?
Would they be sued for 3 times the damages?
Well, you technically could, yes. Well, no, because that's not deceptive trade practice.
Yeah.
You would still be sued for the, damages that they incurred. But you would be in a lot of trouble. You'd probably lose your license, and then your broker might even as well. And yes, Ms. Beer, that is a breach of contract.
As far as the transaction.
Definitely a breach of contract.
The listing is with the broker, not the agent. So if I sell him Stefan's house and actually do a bunch of information about him, he sues or he tells Justin wherever I lose my license or whatever, the listing is still up because it's through Justin, not really through me. So Justin can just be like, all right, well
Finish it
now
up.
agent or whoever, like you have
Yeah,
this
he'll
now.
push it
Yeah,
on someone
he'll
else.
just toss it to somebody else basically.
But the seller might just like drop you altogether.
Yeah.
Say I'm gonna go with a different firm.
Yeah.
Relist it. That could happen.
And if you breach that contract, they're allowed to just withdraw from everything. So
Or you gave away confidential information.
Yeah.
It's not cool, man.
Yeah.
It's not cool.
yeah, if I work for Noble's Realty Group and I do that, they're probably not going to trust Stefan, who's just the next person at the same
Oh,
time.
yeah,
they pass it off to yeah, exactly. Like,
And they'd be like, well, okay, same firm.
Yeah,
Probably,
it's like-
probably the same thing, right?
I answered that one pretty well.
Well,
you did.
Yeah.
You did great.
There we go.
Yeah, you did.
Great teaching there, Stefan.
You did good, man. You did good. All right, so discussion question 2. What is the best way to handle the situation of selling your own listing to a buyer with whom you've had many prior business relationships? Let's see. Tisha looks busy. How you doing, Miss Mira? You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm good.
You want to do this one? You want to take this one away, or do you want to, phone a friend?
I'm rereading the question and see if I can come up with a good answer.
All right, go for it. No rush. And no pressure.
So we have an hour.
So you're selling your own listing, which means you did not hire an agent, correct?
So if you're selling your own listing,
No, you are the listing.
you are
agent.
the listing agent, yes.
Okay.
So you're selling it to a buyer with whom you've had plenty of relationships with. So it's a buyer that you know intimately.
I'm selling Stefan's house, who I've listed, but Wyatt wants to buy it. But I've done like 5 or 6 deals in the past for Wyatt, so I know him really well, and like he works with me all the time or whatever.
Right. So what should you do in that sort of situation?
I mean, I would still follow the same procedure, which is give them a seller's disclosure. I would still do the promulgated forms. Actually, you don't have to do a promulgated form because you're selling your own home.
You're not selling your own home.
No, you're not selling your own home. You're selling. It's your own listing, so it's not going to be your house. It's still your client's house, but you're just selling a listing to a buyer that you know very well.
I mean, yeah, there may be like favoritism towards that person, but ultimately my loyalty belongs to my customer. So even though I have a good relationship with the buyer, I can't do anything to really benefit them because then I could lose my license.
Yes.
Yep, you got it.
You killed it.
Yeah.
You killed it.
Yeah, one thing I've actually had this happen, this come up in the past for me, and basically I had a listing that a friend of ours from years ago, whatever, wanted to come in and buy, and so I just was like, cool, then if you want to buy that house, I think you would love Aiden, you should work with him, and I just like passed the buyer off to another agent in the firm. That way it's not me trying to deal with my seller, but also have like a good family friend come in and try to, whatever. That way they can be represented by somebody else. So I don't have to worry about that. Aiden's their agent at that point, and then me and Aiden just can't talk about the transaction at all to each other.
That's what you should do.
Yeah.
That's what you should do in that situation is pass it off to someone else in the firm.
Yeah.
Hey, I know this person, treat them well.
Yeah.
So what if it's like a $2 million home, and are you going to get that commission?
If that's the case, you're definitely going to want to talk to your broker. He might advise you, or they might advise you on what you should and should not do.
Yeah.
But when it comes to something like this, you won't be making that decision. Your broker will be.
It also depends on the person, because like at one point I was selling it was like a distant relative of ours. It was like his house, but my dad wanted to buy it. After I listed it, my dad decided he wanted to buy it, or he was thinking about buying it. And in that situation, I can't like terminate my listing agreement and work for my dad. But my dad, like, he owned a bunch of rental properties. He like kind of knows the business. His dad used to be a real estate broker way back in the day, and they did a bunch of deals together and whatever. So he kind of knows how real estate works. So in that situation, I could do what we were talking about earlier, where I represent the seller and my dad's just on his own. Like, you don't get any, I'm not going to give you any benefits. You don't get any negotiating. You're just a customer, but my client is still the seller. And if you want to put in an offer, tell me how much, I'll fill out the contract and send it over. But I'm going to tell them, you should cross out this, you should ask for this, you should put this in here, or whatever. And then if you agree to it, we'll all sign it, we can still get going, and we're good. And that way I get full 6%, but it's not, I'm not representing both people, I'm representing the seller, and the buyer is just not represented by anybody.
Right. So in that situation, you definitely want to talk to your broker.
Yeah.
He'll-
And yeah, I sat down for like an hour with Justin and
Justin.
explained like the situation, and we talked about like the possibilities of what we could do. And he was like, well, if they know this, and I wasn't afraid of my dad like stumbling over something and then suddenly I'm scamming my dad out of like $1 million. Like, I know that's not going to happen because he knows what he's doing. So I was comfortable. Like, it was like a $200,000 property. I was like, I'm comfortable that you know what you're doing. You know what it's worth. Like, you just tell me the number you want to put in, I'll put it in, and then we'll talk to the other guy and see what he says, basically. So
Basically, if you're just unsure, just talk with your broker.
yeah, always.
They'll put you in the right direction to do that. Although Justin might give you a crap lead every now and then.
Oh god.
But
Never has any. They're always weird.
yes, yeah. Nothing normal ever happens to Justin,
Oh, no.
and then he pushes it off on us.
Lord forbid anything ever is easy for Justin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Meeting me was.
What?
Meeting me was.
Oh, right.
Oh,
Yeah, I guess that's one thing, right?
You got it.
All right, discussion 3 is the last one, and we'll be done. We're getting out a little bit early. What should a listing broker say when the buyer asks the common question, how low will the seller go? This is a much easier one. What do you think, Carl?
I think that
So a buyer comes up to me, and I'm representing the seller, and the buyer asks me as the seller's agent, how low will your seller go? What do you think I should say to them?
you should say that I can't qualify to tell you.
You're in the right track, yeah.
Yeah.
You'd say I'm not allowed to disclose that information because we were talking about earlier that would be giving away.
Their negotiation power.
Yeah, it would be giving away confidential information. Yeah. So in that situation, yeah, it would just be like, I'm sorry, I can't disclose that. And I've had that happen to me before too.
Oh yeah, they keep pushing.
Oh yeah, they'll try and push you into it.
They just think if they say it enough, you'll just go, fine, it's this.
Yeah, but
Like if after the first time you say it, and I go, I can't do that. After the 10th time, I'll be like, yeah, you hit that magic number of 10. You ask 10 times, I can tell you now. Yeah, the laws are different once you ask 12 times. This is like,
Answer changes every 5.
yeah, exactly.
I can almost guarantee you'll get that question at some point
Oh, yeah.
in your career. I have, and I was just like, I can't disclose that. Thanks. Any other questions?
You gotta.
All right, so we are done for the evening. Y'all's test is tomorrow. Good luck on that. I think it's the finance one, correct?
Yeah.
I don't envy you. I will say that. Finance was probably the hardest one, at least for me as well. It's not easy. But good luck on that. And we'll see y'all tomorrow for class.
Remember, y'all have till Sunday to turn in all the assignments for the previous 3 classes.
So get all that done.
Yeah, after the test, just focus on that. Y'all can knock that out over the weekend or whatever. Get some of that done.
All right, y'all have a good night, guys.
Bye.